The large doors to the Galaxy Council chamber slid open with a soft hiss. Ambassador Frank Miller walked in with steady steps. His gray hair was neatly combed, and his blue Earth uniform was perfectly pressed. Behind him walked his two most trusted aides, Carol Bennett and Greg Howard. The three humans kept their faces calm, giving away nothing of their thoughts. The Galaxy Council chamber was huge. It curved in a perfect circle with rising seats like a giant bowl. Today, all seats were filled. Over 300 different alien species were present. Some had scales, others had fur. Some floated in special tanks, while others needed special breathing equipment. They all watched the humans with curious eyes. Frank reached the speaking platform in the center of the room. He placed his tablet on the stand and looked up at the gathered representatives. The council leader, a tall being with purple skin named Exalor, nodded for him to begin. "Honored representatives of the Galaxy Council," Frank said, his voice clear and strong. "For 372 years, Earth has been a member of this body. We have shared in its goals of peace, trade, and mutual growth." The room was quiet. No one moved. "Today, I stand before you with an official message from the President and people of Earth." Frank paused and looked around the room once more. "After careful consideration and centuries of participation, Earth hereby withdraws from the Galaxy Council, effective immediately." For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the room exploded with noise. The Zintari representative with skin that shimmered like blue water jumped to his feet. "This is outrageous. Earth cannot simply leave," he shouted. From the other side, the Vorlex delegation began making loud clicking sounds with their mouthparts. Their translator device announced, "We demand explanation. This breaks 17 trade agreements." Frank did not react to the noise. He simply gathered his notes, nodded once to the council leader, and turned to leave. Carol and Greg followed close behind him. "Ambassador Miller," called Exalor, "the council has not dismissed you. This matter requires discussion." Frank stopped and turned back. "With respect, council leader, Earth is no longer under council authority. Our decision is final. All Earth citizens working on council projects have been recalled. All Earth resources previously committed to council use are being retrieved. We wish the council peace and prosperity in its future endeavors." With that, the three humans walked out. The noise in the chamber grew even louder as they left. In the corridor outside, Greg let out a long breath. That went about as expected. Carol nodded, checking her tablet. "Our shuttle is ready. Security reports no problem so far," Frank said. Nothing until they reached the private room assigned to Earth's delegation. Once inside with the door sealed, he loosened his collar and sat down heavily in a chair. 500 years, he said quietly. 500 years they've looked down on us, treated us like the new kids who don't know anything. 500 years of taking our ideas and giving us no credit. Carol poured water from a pitcher. The council never did understand humans very well. "That was our advantage," said Greg, looking out the window at the stars. "They thought we were just simple creatures who happened to discover space travel. They never bothered to look closer." Frank took the water Carol offered. "Has the president been informed?" Carol nodded. "Yes, she's preparing for the response. Most analysts expect the council to send representatives to Earth within days to negotiate." "They won't be allowed to land," Frank said firmly. "Not until they're ready to treat us as equals." The three sat in silence for a moment. They had worked toward this day for years. Earth's apparent weakness had been a clever disguise. While pretending to be less advanced, humans had quietly built their independence from council resources. They had developed technologies far beyond what they had shared, all while the council treated them as junior partners at best, amusing pets at worst. "Are the final withdrawals proceeding on schedule?" Frank asked. Greg checked his own tablet. "Yes. Admiral Powell is overseeing the defense grid shutdowns personally. Paul Warren is handling the mining operations on Kalex 7. Lisa Conway is pulling our people from the diplomatic hub." Frank nodded. "And the Reclamation Committee?" "Jack Thompson reports they're ready," Carol said. "Phase 1 begins as soon as we're back on Earth." Their shuttle was small but comfortable. As they left the massive council station behind, Carol looked back through the viewing port. "It really is beautiful," she said, watching the giant structure gleam in the light of the nearby star. The station was home to thousands of diplomats and staff from across the galaxy. For centuries, it had been the center of galactic politics. "You think we've made a mistake?" she asked quietly. Frank joined her at the window. "No, they left us no choice. The Council has been using us as pawns for too long. Last month's vote to deny us access to the Orion research was the final straw. They have no idea what's coming, do they?" Greg said. Frank shook his head. "No. They think we're just having a tantrum. They don't realize how much of their infrastructure secretly depends on us." The shuttle accelerated away from the station, heading for the jump point that would take them back to Earth. In 3 days they would be home. And in those same 3 days, the carefully planned withdrawal of all Earth's contributions to galactic society would begin to show its effects. None of the aliens on the Council station knew that humans had been the quiet problem solvers of the galaxy for centuries. Human engineers had fixed design flaws in alien technology without taking credit. Human diplomats had smoothed over conflicts without recognition. Human scientists had provided breakthroughs that aliens claimed as their own. Now all that hidden support was about to disappear. As the shuttle reached the jump point, Frank looked at his 2 colleagues. The president's message said it best. Sometimes you don't know what you have until it's gone. Carol nodded. The galaxy is about to learn that lesson the hard way. The shuttle entered the jump point, disappearing in a flash of light. Behind them, the Council station continued its slow spin, its occupants still arguing about Earth's decision. None of them yet understood that the first cracks in their comfortable galactic order had already begun to form. In 3 days, those cracks would start to spread. In a week, they would be impossible to ignore. And in a month, the entire galaxy would realize just how much they had depended on the humans they had never truly respected. Earth was going home, and the universe was about to panic. The massive screen on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force flagship showed a complex network of glowing dots and lines. Admiral Diane Powell watched as her officers systematically shut down Earth's connections to the Council defense grid. With each deactivation, sections of the display turned from green to red. "Sector 12 is now offline," reported Lieutenant Steve Mason. "That completes the outer rim withdrawal." Diane nodded, her short brown hair and stern face reflected in the darkened screens around her. "Proceed with the mid-range sectors." Another officer looked up from her station. "Admiral, we're receiving emergency signals from the Taurus system. Their defense platforms are failing." "As expected," Diane said calmly. "The Council never realized those platforms ran on our software updates. Continue with the withdrawal schedule. For centuries, Earth had provided quiet support to the Galactic Defense Network. Human engineers had developed security patches, maintenance protocols, and system upgrades that became essential to the network's operation. The Council had always believed these were minor contributions. They were wrong. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out as humans withdrew their expertise and resources. On the mining planet Kalex 7, Paul Warren watched as Earth workers loaded the last shipment of rare minerals onto their transport ships. The planet's surface was dusty and red. Under the light of its distant sun, huge mining machines stood silent nearby. A tall alien with gray skin and 4 arms approached Paul. This was Kurlak, the Taurian mining overseer. His face showed clear signs of distress. "You cannot do this," Kurlak said, his voice translator, making his words sound sharp and angry. "Without Earth's mining expertise in these resources, interstellar commerce will collapse." Paul simply handed him a tablet to sign. "The contracts expired yesterday. Earth will be using these resources for our own development now. But these minerals are essential for faster-than-light travel. The Council will pay 3 times the previous rate," Kurlak offered desperately. Paul shook his head. "This isn't about money. It's about respect. For too long, the Council has treated Earth as a junior partner. That ends today." The Taurian's skin turned a darker shade of gray, a sign of deep distress. You don't understand what you're doing. Without these resources, many systems will be cut off from each other. Perhaps the Council should have considered that before. They voted to exclude Earth from the new trade agreements last year, Paul replied. He checked his watch. Our ships leave in 30 minutes. You might want to clear the landing area. On the Council's diplomatic hub world of Nexus, Lisa Conway watched the chaos unfold through the windows of the Earth Embassy. The streets outside were filled with representatives from dozens of species, all shouting and arguing. Some were already fighting. Lisa's assistant, Alan Parker, joined her at the window. The Draxians and Vega Alliance delegates are threatening war over the water, rights to the Centauri systems. Those negotiations have been ongoing for 60 years, Lisa said. We were the only ones keeping them from each other's throats. And now? Alan asked. Now they'll either figure it out themselves or they'll fight, Lisa said simply. Not our problem anymore. Alan looked troubled. Do you really think this is the right path? Some of these species could destroy each other without our mediation. Lisa turned from the window. They never realized we were the glue holding everything. Together. They treated us like children, but we were actually their caretakers. Maybe this will be the wake-up call they need. The embassy staff were packing the last of their belongings. Earth had maintained this diplomatic post for over 3 centuries. Now it would close its doors for the first time. Are the protective shields in place? Lisa asked. Alan nodded. Yes. Once we leave, the embassy will be sealed. No one without Earth authorization will be able to enter. Good, Lisa said. Our transport leaves in 2 hours. Make sure everyone is ready. Back on Earth, in a tall building in Washington, D.C., Jack Thompson stood before a wall of screens showing data from across the galaxy. His team of 50 specialists occupied the room, monitoring the withdrawal of Earth's resources and personnel from Council space. Report, Jack said to the room. A young woman named Amy Rodriguez stood up. Sir, all defense systems have been successfully disconnected as scheduled. Admiral Powell reports no resistance. Mining operations? Jack asked. Final shipments are leaving Kalex 7 Barris and the Rigel system, replied another team member, Ben Harris. All Earth personnel will be clear of Council space within 24 hours. Financial markets? Jack continued. An older man with glasses, Eric Daniels, looked up from his screen. As predicted, the galactic credit has lost 40% of its value in the last 6 hours. 3 major banking houses have already collapsed. The Council is trying to stabilize the situation, but without our algorithms, their financial systems are in free fall. Jack nodded, his face serious. And transportation networks? 3 major trade routes have already become unusable, reported Olivia Grant. With our maintenance crews withdrawn from the hyperspace beacons, the navigation systems are failing. At current rates, 50% of all Council trade routes will be unsafe for travel within 1 week. Jack walked slowly around the room, looking at each screen. The data painted a clear picture. The galaxy was beginning to unravel without Earth support. We've been subsidizing galactic civilization with our innovation and labor for 500 years, Jack told his team. It's time to bring it all home and focus on ourselves for a change. In the Council emergency chambers, the situation was growing desperate. Representatives from 30 major species had gathered for an urgent meeting. How could we not have seen this coming? Demanded the Arcturian delegate, slamming his fist on the table. How did we become so dependent on one species? Council President X Alor stood at the head of the table. We never properly assessed Earth's contributions. They seemed minor individually, but together they were holding everything together, finished High Chancellor Velka of the Procyon Federation. His tentacles moved anxiously as he spoke. We valued their resources but ignored their ingenuity. We saw their military as small but didn't notice how their technology enhanced our defenses. We dismissed their diplomacy as naive, but failed to see how they prevented conflicts. We must establish contact with Earth immediately, Exalor declared. We must negotiate their return before the situation deteriorates further. But it was already too late. Across Council space, systems that had functioned smoothly for centuries were failing. Conflicts that had been managed through careful diplomacy were erupting into violence. Resources that had flowed freely through trade routes were suddenly scarce, and Earth watched it all happen, exactly as they had predicted. In her office overlooking the Pacific Ocean, President Susan Rivera received the latest reports with a calm expression. "Is it time to respond to their messages?" asked her Chief of Staff, William Grant. "Not yet," Susan replied. "Let them understand exactly what they've lost by taking us for granted. Only then will they be ready to talk as equals." The galaxy was beginning to panic, and this was only the beginning. 2 weeks after Earth's withdrawal, the council chamber looked very different. The perfect order it once displayed was gone. Many seats were empty. Those representatives who did attend looked tired and worried. Council President Exilor stood at the center platform. His purple skin had faded to a pale lavender from stress. "The situation continues to worsen," he said to the gathered aliens. 17 more star systems have reported critical failures in their infrastructure. The outer colonies are now completely cut off without functioning hyperspace beacons. A representative from the Lorian species raised a delicate hand. Her skin was pale green, almost transparent. "What about the diplomatic missions we sent to Earth? Have they made contact?" Xalor's shoulders dropped. "None of the 3 missions have returned or sent any messages. Earth appears to be refusing all communication." High Chancellor Velka slammed his tentacle on the table. "For what purpose did we treat them so poorly? So they could leave and watch us fall apart? We should have seen this coming centuries ago." "Placing blame will not solve our problem," Exilor said firmly. "We need solutions. Our scientists are working to understand the Earth technologies, but progress is slow. What none of them knew was that Earth had inserted subtle complexities into everything they shared with the Council. These hidden elements made their technology nearly impossible to replicate without human expertise. It had been Earth's insurance policy for centuries. In deep space, aboard the research vessel Galactic Explorer, human scientist Maria Rodriguez faced another difficult day. The ship was studying unusual energy patterns in a distant nebula. When Earth recalled all its citizens, Maria had chosen to stay to finish her important research. Now she regretted that decision. Captain Zenlar entered the lab where Maria worked. He was a tall, thin alien with 6 eyes arranged in a circle around his head. "Dr. Rodriguez," he said, his translator making his voice sound flat and mechanical. "You must help us understand the stabilization algorithms your people developed. 3 star systems have already experienced catastrophic drive failures." Maria looked up from her work. The ship had changed course 3 days ago, abandoning their research to return to Council space. But without properly maintained hyperspace beacons, their journey was slow and dangerous. "I've already told you, Captain, I'm not an engineer," she replied calmly. "I study energy patterns, not drive systems." "But you are human," the captain insisted. "Surely you understand your own technology better than we do." Maria crossed her arms. "Perhaps you should have paid more attention when we repeatedly warned the Council about the maintenance requirements." The captain's eyes blinked in sequence, showing his frustration. "You are now the only human in this sector of space. We cannot return to Council territory without your help." "I'm sorry, but I can't help with something I don't understand," Maria said. She wasn't being entirely truthful. All Earth citizens had received basic training in their technology, specifically to prevent aliens from extracting their secrets. If situations like this occurred, the captain left, his body language showing his disappointment. Maria returned to her work, wondering if Earth would send someone to bring her home. She felt like a prisoner now, even though the crew still treated her with respect. They needed her too much to do otherwise. On Earth, the Reclamation Committee had expanded its operations. Their headquarters now occupied an entire building in Washington, D.C. Jack Thompson walked through the busy control room, watching as hundreds of staff coordinated the return of Earth's resources and personnel. "Status report," he said to his assistant, Amy Rodriguez. Amy handed him a tablet. 93% of all Earth citizens have been successfully extracted from Council space. The remaining 7% are either in transit or in remote locations that will take more time to reach. And our technology retrieval? 78% complete, Amy replied. Most of our defense systems, communication networks, and industrial equipment have been recovered or shut down remotely. Jack nodded with satisfaction. And our specialist teams? Team Alpha has recovered the advanced AI cores from the Council's central banking system. Team Beta has removed our quantum encryption modules from their communication network. Team Delta is still working to extract our navigational algorithms from the hyperspace beacon network. Jack smiled slightly. The Council never realized how deeply integrated our technology was in their systems. They thought they were doing us a favor by allowing us to participate. Sir, Amy said hesitantly, we've received reports that some Earth citizens are being detained by desperate alien authorities. They hope to extract technological knowledge. Jack's smile disappeared. Identify those citizens immediately. Send their locations to special operations. No human will be left behind or used against their will. In another part of the building, President Susan Rivera met with her cabinet. The long table was filled with the leaders of Earth's government departments. Large screens on the wall showed data and images from across the planet and beyond. How are our domestic improvements progressing? Susan asked. The Secretary of Technology, Daniel Wright, stood up. Excellently, Madam President. With all our resources and best minds focused on Earth now, we've already implemented advancements that were previously exported to Council worlds. Energy production is up 40%. Medical technology has improved dramatically. Transportation systems are being upgraded with technologies we kept hidden from the Council. And defense? Susan asked, turning to another cabinet member. Defense. Secretary Laura Martinez touched her tablet, changing the images on the wall screens. They now showed Earth's orbital defenses. Our shield network is at full capacity. The fleet is deployed in strategic positions throughout the solar system. No Council ship could approach Earth without our permission. Susan nodded. And the reports from Council space? Foreign Secretary Henry Morgan looked grim as he reported. The situation is deteriorating faster than even we predicted. Their economy is in free fall. 3 minor conflicts have escalated into full-scale wars. The prestigious Galactic University has shut down completely after learning that 60% of its research was being quietly conducted by humans. Any formal requests for negotiation? Susan asked. 7 in the last 24 hours, Henry replied, all with increasingly desperate language. Susan considered this information carefully. Continue to acknowledge receipt, but do not engage substantively. Let them understand the full impact of our absence before we consider any talks. On the luxury resort world of Paxius Prime, wealthy alien tourists were facing an unexpected crisis. The planet's perfectly controlled climate had been its main attraction. For centuries, visitors had enjoyed its beautiful weather and comfortable temperatures. Now the atmospheric regulation systems were failing. Areas that should be warm and sunny were turning cold and stormy. Regions designed for gentle rain were experiencing flooding, and no one knew how to fix it. The resort's manager, a round alien named Gerlox, faced an angry crowd in the main lobby. Please remain calm, he begged through his translator. Our engineers are working on the problem. Your engineers know nothing, shouted a wealthy Zintari merchant. These systems were designed and maintained by humans. Everyone knows that. We have contacted the Council for assistance, Gerlox said weakly. But the Council had no assistance to offer. They were facing the same problems on hundreds of worlds across the galaxy. Systems that had functioned perfectly for centuries were failing because the humans who had quietly maintained them were gone. And back on Earth, in her office overlooking a city now featuring gravity-defying architecture that had never been revealed to alien allies, President Susan Rivera reviewed the latest intelligence reports. They're falling apart faster than we anticipated, she told Defense Secretary Laura Martinez. Should we intervene? Laura shook her head. Not yet. Let them understand exactly what they've lost by taking us for granted. Susan walked to the window and looked out at the transformed city. Earth was flourishing now, unleashing technologies and innovations that had been held back for centuries. Prepare a message for the Council, she said finally. Tell them we will be ready to discuss a new relationship in 3 more weeks, not as members, but as equals. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the panic continued to grow. 6 months after Earth's withdrawal, the galaxy was nearly unrecognizable. What had begun as an inconvenience had turned into a full-scale crisis. Systems that aliens had taken for granted for centuries no longer worked properly. Trade routes that had connected distant worlds were now dangerous or impossible to travel. The Andromeda trade route, once the busiest pathway between 3 major galactic arms, had collapsed completely. The navigational beacons that guided ships through the dangerous radiation fields had failed when their key algorithms stopped receiving updates from Earth engineers. On the peaceful world of Loria, the situation was even worse. The Lorians were a gentle species who had never developed weapons or defenses of their own. They had relied on protection from the Council for generations. Now, with the defensive shield grid failing, they found themselves helpless against Krell raiders. Varla, a Lorian elder, watched from a hilltop as another village burned in the distance. Her long, slender form trembled with sorrow. "Why has this happened to us?" she asked the Lorian beside her, a young male named Trell. "We have never harmed anyone. The shields that protected us were maintained by humans," Trell explained. "Without them, the Krell can attack as they please." "But why would the humans abandon us?" Varla asked. "We always treated them with kindness." Trell looked down. Perhaps kindness was not enough. The Council never gave humans the respect they deserved, and now we all suffer for that mistake. Across the galaxy, Council member worlds began hoarding resources. What had once been a united galactic society was breaking apart. Species that had lived in peace for millennia now viewed each other with suspicion and fear. Without human diplomats to smooth over conflicts and find compromises, old grudges resurfaced. 3 minor border disputes had already escalated into full-scale wars. The Zintari and Vorlex fleets clashed over control of a resource-rich asteroid belt. The Taurians and Procyon Federation fought over water rights to a shared star system. And the Krell, always eager for conquest, had begun attacking any world they saw as vulnerable. On the once prestigious Galactic University planet, the E, halls of learning stood empty and silent. When human professors and researchers had departed, the university had tried to continue. But then a shocking discovery was made. 60% of all research at the university had been quietly conducted by humans working behind the scenes. Many alien breakthroughs had actually been guided or completely developed by human scientists who never received credit. Saltor, the university president, sat alone in his large office. The building around him was dark and quiet. His 6-fingered hands moved over a tablet showing the university's research history. "How did we not see this?" he whispered to himself. "How did we miss their brilliance for so long?" The answer was simple but painful. Arrogance. The older species had seen humans as newcomers, as primitive beings who had stumbled onto faster-than-light travel before they were truly ready for it. No one had bothered to look deeper, to recognize that humans had a unique way of solving problems that other species couldn't match. In Council headquarters, now operating with minimal staff and frequent power outages, President Exalor faced the harshest criticism of his long career. "You have led us to ruin," shouted the Arcturian delegate. "Your failure to properly value Earth's contributions has destroyed 500 years of peace and prosperity." Exalor did not defend himself. The criticism was fair. As Council President, he had overlooked humans just as all his predecessors had done. The consequences of that mistake were now clear to everyone. "We have sent 17 formal requests for negotiation to Earth," he told the angry representatives. "They have acknowledged receipt of each message, but have not yet agreed to talks. Our last communication indicated they might be ready to discuss a new relationship in the coming weeks." "And what can we offer them?" asked the Lorian representative, her voice filled with despair. "They have proven they don't need us. Meanwhile, we fall apart without them." No one had an answer to that uncomfortable question. On Earth, the changes were dramatic but in the opposite direction. With all its focus, technology, and brightest minds returned home, humanity experienced a renaissance of development. Cities transformed. Buildings that once stood straight now curved in beautiful, gravity-defying arcs. Transportation systems moved people effortlessly across continents in minutes rather than hours. Energy became abundant as previously exported. Innovations were finally implemented domestically. In the new Earth Defense Force headquarters, a massive complex built inside Mount Rainier, Admiral Diane Powell reviewed the latest security reports with her staff. All outer system defenses are operating at peak efficiency, reported Commander Ryan Ellis. Our stealth satellites have detected 3 Council scout ships at the edge of our solar system, but none have attempted to approach Earth. What about the rescue mission to retrieve Dr. Rodriguez? Diane asked. Success, Admiral, Commander Ellis said with a smile. Special Operations Team Delta extracted her from the research vessel 3 days ago. The aliens on board offered no resistance once they realized what was happening. Diane nodded with satisfaction. And our other stranded citizens? Only 17 humans remain in Council space, all by choice. They've been offered extraction but have declined. Most are married to alien citizens and wish to remain with their families. Keep monitoring their situations, Diane ordered. If any of them face danger or decide to return, I want immediate action. In Washington, D.C., Jack Thompson's Reclamation Committee had completed most of its work. Earth's technology and citizens had been successfully recovered from Council space. Now the committee had a new mission, helping Earth's industries implement the advanced technologies that had previously been shared only with the Council. The transition is going even better than expected, Jack told his team during their morning's meeting. Medical technology has advanced 30 years in just 6 months. Energy production is now completely clean and sustainable. Our transportation network is the most efficient in history. Amy Rodriguez raised her hand. What about defense? Technology? Jack's expression grew serious. That remains our top priority. We still don't know how the Council will ultimately respond to our withdrawal. While most species seem desperate for our return, others might see us as a threat, now that our true capabilities are becoming clear. In her office overlooking the transformed Washington, D.C., President Susan Rivera met with her closest advisors. Through the window, she could see buildings that now incorporated advanced materials and designs that had been kept hidden from alien allies. The city looked like something from a science fiction story. Foreign Secretary Henry Morgan handed her a tablet. The latest message from the Council, Madam President. They're practically begging for negotiations now. Susan reviewed the message carefully. They're finally beginning to understand. We were never the junior partners they thought we were. Should we respond? Henry asked. Susan set down the tablet. Yes, it's time. Tell them we will meet in 1 month. Not at their headquarters, but on neutral ground. And make it clear, we are not discussing rejoining the Council. We are discussing a new relationship entirely. Across the galaxy, news of Earth's willingness to talk spread rapidly. For the first time in months, there was a sense of hope among the struggling alien civilizations. But that hope was tempered by a new understanding. Humanity would never again accept a subordinate role in galactic affairs. The balance of power had shifted permanently, and on Earth, preparations began for the most important diplomatic meeting in human history. 1 year after Earth's withdrawal, a massive alien fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system. Over 300 ships from every major galactic power hung in space like a swarm of metal insects. Earth's defense systems immediately detected them, and alarms sounded throughout the planet's military installations. In the Earth Defense Force Command Center inside Mount Rainier, Admiral Diane Powell assessed the situation with her staff. Are they in attack formation? She asked Commander Ryan Ellis. No, Admiral, he replied, studying the large display screen. They appear to be holding position just beyond Pluto's orbit. Their weapon systems are not powered up. They're being careful, Diane observed. They know we could destroy them before they got anywhere near Earth. A communications officer turned in her chair. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the lead vessel. It's broadcasting on all frequencies. Let's hear it, Diane ordered. The large screen changed to show an alien face. It was Supreme Counselor Thraz, the most powerful political figure in the known universe. His gray skin and large dark eyes were recognized throughout the galaxy. When he spoke, his translator conveyed his message clearly. People of Earth, we come to talk. We bring representatives from every major power in the galaxy. We seek peaceful resolution and a new beginning. We await your response. Diane turned to her communications officer. Send this reply. Your message is received. Maintain your current position. Further instructions will follow. Then she contacted the President's office. In Washington, D.C., President Susan Rivera called an emergency meeting of her cabinet. They gathered in the secure conference room beneath the White House, now protected by technology far beyond what any alien species had ever seen from Earth. They've finally come, Susan told her advisors. And in force. Every major power has sent ships. Defense Secretary Laura Martinez looked concerned. It could be a show of strength or even a prelude to attack. Foreign Secretary Henry Morgan shook his head. I disagree. If they wanted to attack, they wouldn't announce themselves. They're desperate for negotiations. I think Henry is right, Susan said. This is what we've been waiting for. They've realized they can't function without us, and they're ready to talk on our terms. What are those terms exactly? Asked Jack Thompson, who had joined the cabinet as Secretary of Reclamation. Susan smiled slightly. We will return to Galactic Society, but not as council members. We want recognition as a founding partner of a new interstellar alliance. Earth innovations will be properly credited and compensated, and we will have veto power over major decisions. They'll never agree to that, Laura predicted. They will, Susan replied confidently, because they have no choice. 3 days later, the grand conference room of the newly constructed Humanity Tower in Geneva was prepared for the most important meeting in Earth's history. The circular room had a high glass dome that showed the sky above. The walls were made of smooth white stone with gold designs. In the center stood a large round table with chairs for all delegates. Earth's delegation entered first. Chief Negotiator Samantha Kelly led the team, followed by Jack Thompson, Admiral Powell, and several key ministers. They took their seats and waited. The alien representatives entered next. Supreme Counselor Thraz led them, his tall gray form moving with dignity despite the circumstances. Behind him came delegates from every major species. The blue-skinned Zintari, the many-limbed Vorlex, the gentle Lorians, the warrior Krell, and dozens more. Even the aggressive Taurians had sent a representative. Samantha Kelly stood to greet them. Welcome to Earth. Please be seated. The aliens took their places around the table. Many looked around the room with obvious curiosity. They had never been invited to Earth before. All previous council meetings had taken place in space or on alien worlds. Thraz spoke first. Earth, he began, his translator conveying his deep voice. The galaxy stands on the brink of total collapse. We were blind to your true value. The Council offers unconditional terms for your return. Samantha smiled slightly. Supreme Counselor, we appreciate your directness. However, before we begin discussions, I want to be clear. The old arrangement is dead. Earth will not return as a member state of the existing Galaxy Council. Murmurs ran through the alien delegation. A Vorlex representative clicked his mouthparts anxiously. Then what do you propose? Without Earth's return, galactic civilization, as we know it, will end. We are willing to discuss a new relationship, Samantha replied. One of equals. We propose a new galactic alliance, with Earth as a founding partner with equal status to the original Council powers. Thraz's large eyes blinked slowly. You want to dismantle the Council structure that has maintained peace for thousands of years? The Council structure that treated Earth as a junior partner despite our critical contributions, Samantha corrected. Yes, that system must end. For the next 12 hours, the negotiations continued. The alien representatives argued, pleaded, and occasionally threatened. But Earth's delegation remained firm. They had prepared for this moment for years. They knew exactly what they wanted and what they were willing to give. By the end of the day, the terms were clear. Earth would return to galactic society as a founding partner of a new galactic alliance. Human innovation would be appropriately credited and compensated. Earth would have veto power over major decisions, and there would be a complete reassessment of how technology and resources were shared among all species. As the aliens reluctantly signed the new treaty, Deputy Negotiator Kevin Russell leaned toward Samantha Kelly. "Do you think they realize even now what makes humans different?" he whispered. Samantha watched the alien representatives, still struggling to understand how they had missed humanity's quiet brilliance for so long. "They're beginning to," she said. "We never needed their advanced technology or their ancient wisdom. Our strength was always our ability to solve problems they didn't even know they had." In the days that followed, news of the treaty spread across the galaxy. Markets stabilized, conflicts cooled. Earth engineers began returning to key installations to restore critical systems. Human diplomats resumed their roles mediating disputes. And slowly, the panic that had gripped the galaxy began to fade. But everything was different now. Throughout civilized space, a new respect for the species from the unremarkable blue planet began to take hold. Aliens who had once looked down on humans now sought their advice and partnership. Universities that had ignored human research now created special departments to study Earth innovation. And species that had once seen humans as primitive newcomers now recognized them as equals, perhaps even as leaders. 1 month after the treaty signing, President Susan Rivera addressed the people of Earth from the Oval Office. "Today marks the beginning of a new era, not just for humanity but for all intelligent life in our galaxy," she said. "We have taken our rightful place among the stars. Never again will we be underestimated or taken for granted. Earth has changed the galaxy forever." As her words were broadcast across the planet, ships from Earth were already departing to help rebuild what had been broken. But this time, they went not as servants but as partners, not as junior members but as leaders. Earth hadn't just left the Galaxy Council. It had transformed the universe's understanding of humanity's true place among the stars.